You know that feeling? That gut-wrenching, soul-crushing sensation of never being enough. That's been my entire life, woven into the very fabric of my existence, all thanks to my own father. If you've ever felt like you're constantly running on a treadmill, chasing a finish line that keeps moving, then this story is for you. Hit that subscribe button and tap the notification bell, because what I'm about to reveal will change how you see parental relationships forever. This isn't just a story. It's a raw, unfiltered journey through the trenches of emotional warfare. A battle I fought not with fists, but with every fiber of my being, just to prove my worth. And spoiler alert, I didn't win until I stopped fighting altogether. From the moment I could understand words, my father, Arthur, began his relentless campaign. He wasn't overtly cruel, not in the way that leaves physical scars. His weapon was far more insidious: comparison. Specifically, comparison to my older sister, Evelyn. Evelyn, 2 years my senior, was, in his eyes, perfection personified. She was graceful, intelligent, effortlessly charming. I was just me. And in Arthur's world, just me was never, ever good enough. I remember one particularly vivid afternoon. I must have been about 7. Evelyn had just come home with a perfect report card, straight A's, a gold star for conduct, the whole 9 yards. My report card, while respectable, had a B in math. It wasn't a bad grade, but it wasn't an A. Arthur held Evelyn's report card aloft like a sacred scroll, a beaming smile transforming his usually stern face. "Look at your sister Amelia," he declared, his voice booming with pride. "A true scholar, a girl who knows the value of hard work." Then, his gaze would drift to me, the smile vanishing, replaced by a slight frown, a barely perceptible shake of the head. "And you, Amelia? A B in math? We need to do better, don't we?" Evelyn never gets a B. The sting of those words, the silent judgment in his eyes, was a familiar ache. It wasn't just about the grade. It was about the implication that I was inherently less smart, less diligent, less worthy of his unreserved joy. It was a pattern that repeated itself endlessly, a broken record playing on a loop. Evelyn's ballet recitals were met with effusive praise, her delicate pirouettes deemed works of art. My clumsy attempts at gymnastics, though I loved the feeling of flying, were met with a dismissive shrug. "Evelyn has such natural grace," he'd comment, watching me stumble through a cartwheel. You're more of a force of nature, aren't you, Amelia?" It sounded like a compliment, but I knew, deep down, it was anything but. It meant I was loud, unrefined, not like her. The constant comparisons bled into every aspect of our lives. At family dinners, Arthur would recount Evelyn's latest achievements, her acceptance into the gifted program, her winning essay in the school competition. I'd sit there, silently pushing peas around my plate, feeling invisible, a ghost at my own family table. My mother, Sarah, would sometimes try to interject, to highlight one of my small triumphs. "Amelia drew such a lovely picture today, Arthur," she'd offer, her voice gentle, almost pleading. Arthur would glance at my drawing, a quick, perfunctory nod. "Very nice, dear. But did you see Evelyn's watercolor? The depth of field, the subtle shading, truly remarkable for her age." It was soul-crushing. Every single time. It taught me that my efforts, no matter how earnest, would always be overshadowed, always deemed secondary. I yearned for his approval, for that dazzling smile he reserved exclusively for Evelyn. I craved it like a starving person craves food, and it fueled a desperate, all-consuming need to compete. I started trying harder in school, staying up late to study, pushing myself to excel in everything. I joined clubs, volunteered for extra projects, anything to earn a sliver of that precious praise. But it was a zero-sum game. If I got an A, he'd say, "That's good, but Evelyn got an A+." If I won a prize, he'd mention, "Evelyn won that last year, and hers was a more prestigious award." It was an endless, exhausting cycle of striving and falling short, of chasing a moving target that always remained just out of reach. I began to resent Evelyn, not for her achievements, but for being the measuring stick against which I was constantly found wanting. It wasn't her fault, of course, but in my young, wounded mind, she was the embodiment of my father's unattainable affection. The pressure mounted as we entered our teenage years. Evelyn blossomed into a truly beautiful young woman, attracting attention wherever she went. Arthur reveled in it, introducing her to his colleagues with an almost proprietary pride. "This is my daughter, Evelyn," he'd declare. "She's going to do great things." When it was my turn, he'd often just say, "And this is Amelia." No fanfare, no glowing predictions. Just Amelia. The unspoken message was deafening. I tried to compensate by being louder, funnier, more rebellious. I dyed my hair electric blue, got a questionable tattoo on my ankle the day I turned 18, and started dating boys my father thoroughly disapproved of. Each act was a desperate cry for attention, a clumsy attempt to carve out my own identity, even if it was one he despised. But even my rebellion felt hollow. It wasn't truly about being myself. It was still about getting a reaction from him, any reaction. And usually the reaction was a disappointed sigh or a curt lecture about Evelyn's sensible choices. Evelyn, of course, always made sensible choices. She chose a university of prestige, a sensible major, the respectable boyfriend. I chose the art school, the unconventional path, the musician with more dreams than money. Every choice I made felt like a direct defiance, not of him, but of the invisible expectations he projected onto me, the expectations he had for Evelyn. There was a particularly humiliating incident during my senior year of high school. It was the annual school awards ceremony. Evelyn, predictably, was receiving multiple accolades: Oradora da Turma, Presidente do Clube de Debate, a scholarship to an Ivy League university. Arthur was practically radiating pride, his chest puffed out, a permanent grin plastered on his face. I, on the other hand, was receiving a small award for my contribution to the school newspaper's arts section. It wasn't a major award, but it meant a lot to me. I had poured my heart into those illustrations. When my name was called, I walked across the stage, heart pounding, a hopeful tremor in my stomach. I looked out into the audience, searching for my father's face, for a glimmer of that pride he so freely bestowed upon Evelyn. He was there, of course, sitting next to my mother and Evelyn, but his eyes were fixed on Evelyn, whispering something to her, a shared joke perhaps. He didn't even look up as I received my certificate. The principal handed it to me, a kind smile on her face, and I managed a weak smile back, feeling the flush creep up my neck. As I walked off stage, I heard his voice, clear as a bell, even over the polite applause. "Evelyn, remind me to tell you about the Dean's List requirements for Harvard," he said, completely oblivious to my presence. It was a punch to the gut, a final, definitive confirmation that I was, and always would be, an afterthought. I remember the air leaving my lungs, the world suddenly muted, as if someone had turned down the volume. The certificate felt like a flimsy piece of paper, my achievement utterly meaningless. That night, I cried myself to sleep, a deep, racking sobs that shook my entire body. It wasn't just the awards ceremony. It was the culmination of years of neglect, of being perpetually overlooked. I felt a profound sense of exhaustion, a weariness that seeped into my bones. I was tired of trying, tired of competing, tired of chasing a phantom of approval that would never materialize. Something shifted in me that night. A tiny, defiant spark ignited in the ashes of my self-esteem. It was a realization, stark and clear. I was never going to win this game. Not because I wasn't good enough, but because the rules were rigged. My father wasn't comparing me to Evelyn. He was comparing me to an idealized version of Evelyn that only existed in his head, a version I could never be, even if I tried. And I was done trying. This wasn't a sudden burst of anger, but a quiet, resolute decision, like the turning of a heavy key. I decided, right then and there, that I was going to stop competing. Not against Evelyn, and certainly not for my father's approval. I was going to compete only against myself, to become the best version of Amelia, whatever that looked like, on my own terms. The next morning, I woke up with a strange sense of lightness, a feeling I hadn't experienced in years. It was as if a heavy burden had been lifted from my shoulders. I still went to school, still attended classes, but my motivation had fundamentally changed. I wasn't studying to impress Arthur. I was studying because I genuinely enjoyed learning. I wasn't drawing to gain his praise. I was drawing because it brought me joy. The shift was subtle at first, almost imperceptible to others, but profound within me. My grades, ironically, started to improve even more. The pressure was off, and I found I could focus better, absorb information more effectively. My art flourished, no longer constrained by the need for external validation. I painted what I felt, what I saw, what moved me, not what I thought would garner a nod of approval from a man who never truly saw me. Evelyn noticed the change, of course. She was always perceptive. "You seem different, Amelia," she commented one evening as we sat in the kitchen, both ostensibly doing homework. "Lighter, happier." I just smiled, a genuine smile that reached my eyes, a smile I hadn't realized I was capable of. "Maybe I am," I replied, a quiet triumph in my voice. The true test of my newfound resolve came a few months later, during the summer before college. Arthur had arranged for Evelyn to intern at a prestigious law firm, a stepping stone to her inevitable success. He then turned to me, a forced smile on his face. "Amelia, I've managed to pull some strings for you. There's a clerical position at a local accounting firm. It's not glamorous, but it's good experience, and it'll look good on your resume." In the past, I would have jumped at the chance, desperate for any opportunity he presented, no matter how unsuited it was to my interests. I would have seen it as a chance to finally prove my sensible side, to show him I could be like Evelyn. But that night, as he spoke, I felt nothing. No surge of hope, no frantic need to please. Just a calm, almost detached understanding that this was not my path. "Thank you, Arthur," I said, my voice steady, "but I've actually already found something." His eyebrows shot up. "Oh, and what might that be?" he asked, a hint of suspicion in his tone. "I'm working as an art assistant at a small gallery downtown," I explained. "It's not paid much, but I'll be helping with exhibitions, learning about curation, and getting to be around art every day." The silence that followed was deafening. He stared at me, his mouth slightly agape, as if I had just announced I was joining the circus. "An art assistant?" he finally managed, his voice laced with disbelief and disappointment. "Amelia, that's hardly a career. Evelyn is interning at—" I cut him off, gently but firmly. "I know what Evelyn is doing, Arthur, and I'm happy for her. But this is what I want to do. This is what makes me happy." The words felt liberating, a declaration of independence. He tried to argue, to cajole, to guilt-trip me, but I held my ground. For the first time, his disapproval didn't crush me. It simply was. It was his reaction, not mine. And I realized with a jolt that his opinion no longer held the power it once did. The years that followed were a testament to that pivotal decision. I pursued my passion for art, not as a hobby, but as a calling. The art assistant job led to a position as a gallery coordinator, then a curator, and eventually, after years of hard work and dedication, I opened my own small gallery, Amelia's Canvas. It wasn't a sprawling, internationally renowned establishment, but it was mine. It was a space where artists could find a voice, where beauty and emotion were celebrated. And it thrived. Meanwhile, Evelyn continued on her trajectory, becoming a successful corporate lawyer, exactly as Arthur had predicted. She was brilliant, accomplished, and by all accounts, happy in her chosen field. Our paths diverged dramatically, and yet, for the first time, there was no underlying current of competition between us. We were sisters, supporting each other, celebrating each other's successes, without the shadow of our father's judgment looming over us. It was a beautiful, unexpected outcome. My relationship with Arthur, however, remained complex. He never fully accepted my career choice, always subtly hinting that I should have pursued something more stable, more respectable. He'd still bring up Evelyn's latest promotion during family gatherings, or the impressive cases she was handling. But now, when he did, I no longer felt that familiar pang of inadequacy. Instead, I'd smile, genuinely, and talk about the emerging artist I'd discovered, or the community art project I was spearheading. I stopped trying to justify myself, stopped seeking his validation. I simply existed authentically, in my own truth. And that, I discovered, was the most powerful form of rebellion. It wasn't about defiance. It was about self-acceptance. One day, during a rare one-on-one lunch, Arthur, now older and perhaps a little softer around the edges, looked at me across the table. "You know, Amelia," he said, his voice tinged with something I couldn't quite decipher. "You've made quite a life for yourself." It wasn't an apology or an admission of fault. It was just a statement of fact. But for me, it was enough. It was an acknowledgement, a quiet recognition that I had, against all odds, forged my own path and found my own version of success. I didn't need him to say he was proud or that he regretted his past behavior. His simple observation, devoid of comparison, was a greater gift than any effusive praise could have been. It meant he finally saw me, not just a lesser version of Evelyn. The most profound realization from this entire journey is this: true freedom isn't found in winning the approval of others. It's found in releasing the need for it. When I stopped competing for my father's love, I finally found my own. When I stopped trying to be Evelyn, I finally became Amelia. And Amelia, it turns out, is pretty incredible, flaws and all. The weight of expectation, the constant striving, the feeling of never being enough, it's a heavy chain. But you have the power to break it. You have the power to step off that treadmill, to redefine what success means to you, and to embrace your own unique path. Don't let anyone else's measuring stick dictate your worth. Your value isn't dependent on comparison. It's inherent. It's undeniable. It's uniquely yours. This isn't just my story. It's a blueprint for anyone who's ever felt trapped by the need for external validation. It's a message that says, stop competing, start living. And trust me, the view from your own path is breathtaking. If this resonated with you, if you've ever been in my shoes, share your story in the comments below. Let's build a community of people who refuse to play by someone else's rules. And if you haven't already, smash that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because you won't want to miss what we uncover next on Unspoken Stories. This is just the beginning of reclaiming your narrative. Are you ready to write your own ending? The camera lingers on Amelia's face, a soft, knowing smile playing on her lips. She takes a deep breath, the kind that signifies a release, a letting go. Amelia VO that moment with my father, it wasn't a sudden epiphany. It was the culmination of years of quiet rebellion, of small, deliberate choices to prioritize my own peace over his fleeting approval. It was a gradual shedding of the skin I'd worn, a skin woven from Evelyn's achievements and my father's expectations. And it wasn't easy. Oh no, the inertia of ingrained patterns is a powerful force. It's like trying to navigate a ship against a strong current. Every stroke of the oar feels like a monumental effort. The early days of this journey were filled with a gnawing anxiety. Every time I chose a different path, every time I said no to an opportunity that would have pleased him but drained me, a little voice in my head would scream, "You're failing. You're letting everyone down." It was the voice of a lifetime of conditioning, a constant whisper that my worth was inextricably linked to external metrics. I remember one particular instance, fresh out of college. I had a promising offer from a prestigious law firm, the kind my father had always envisioned for me. It was a golden ticket, a direct route to the kind of success he understood and respected. But the thought of spending my days poring over corporate contracts, of living a life dictated by billable hours and cutthroat competition, filled me with a profound sense of dread. My passion, the thing that truly set my soul alight, was sustainable architecture, specifically the revitalization of urban green spaces. It wasn't glamorous, it wasn't lucrative in the traditional sense, and it certainly wasn't what my father considered a real career. The internal conflict was agonizing. I spent weeks weighing the pros and cons, seeking advice from mentors who saw my potential in law and friends who encouraged me to follow my heart. But ultimately, the decision had to be mine. One evening, I found myself sitting in my cramped apartment, surrounded by architectural blueprints and legal textbooks. The blueprints, filled with verdant parks and community gardens, felt vibrant and alive. The textbooks, with their dense legal jargon, felt heavy and lifeless. That night, I made the call. I politely declined the law firm's offer. The silence on the other end of the line from my father, when I finally told him, was deafening. It was worse than any angry outburst. It was the silence of disappointment, of a dream shattered. And for a moment, that old familiar pang of inadequacy surged through me. Had I made a terrible mistake? Was I throwing away my future? But then, I looked at my architectural sketches, at the vision of a greener, more sustainable city taking shape on paper, and a quiet sense of peace settled over me. It wasn't the boisterous elation of a victory, but the calm assurance of having chosen my own truth. That was the first real crack in the wall of external validation. It was a small crack, but through it, a sliver of light began to shine. This journey isn't a straight line. There are detours, moments of doubt, and even steps backward. The "you've made quite a life for yourself" comment from my father wasn't an instant fix. It was a recognition, yes, but it didn't erase decades of ingrained patterns overnight. The real work continued long after that conversation. The real work is an ongoing process of self-affirmation, of constantly reminding myself that my worth is intrinsic, not something to be earned or proven. Think about it. How many of us are living lives that are, in essence, carefully constructed performances designed to elicit applause from an invisible audience? We choose careers based on perceived prestige, not passion. We chase material possessions because they signal success to others, not because they bring us genuine joy. We even curate our online personas, presenting a polished, often idealized version of ourselves, all in the pursuit of likes and validation. It's a relentless, exhausting cycle, and the worst part is, the goalposts keep moving. The applause, when it comes, is often fleeting, and the silence that follows feels even more profound. I've had countless conversations with people who feel trapped in this very cycle. Sarah, for example, a brilliant artist who had shelved her paintbrushes to pursue a career in finance because her parents believed art isn't a real job. For years, she excelled, climbed the corporate ladder, bought the fancy apartment, and drove the luxury car. From the outside, she was the epitome of success. But internally, she was withering. She'd spend her evenings staring at blank canvases, the longing almost unbearable. It wasn't until a health scare forced her to reevaluate her priorities that she finally had the courage to leave her high-paying job and return to her true calling. The initial backlash from her family was intense. They called her irresponsible, foolish, a failure. But for the first time in years, Sarah felt truly alive. Her art, now infused with the raw emotion of her journey, resonated deeply with others. She found her voice, not in the boardroom, but in the vibrant colors and bold strokes of her paintings. Then there's Mark, who spent his entire adolescence and early adulthood trying to emulate his older brother, a celebrated athlete. Mark wasn't naturally athletic. He was a gifted musician, a talented composer with a deep love for classical music. But his father, a former college football star, only saw his athletic prowess or lack thereof. Mark endured years of grueling training, pushing his body beyond its limits, all to earn a nod of approval that rarely came. He played sports he hated, neglected the piano he adored, and silently resented the brother he was constantly compared to. It wasn't until a career-ending injury forced him off the field that he finally picked up his forgotten sheet music. The initial pain of his injury was slowly replaced by the joy of creating again. He found his true strength, not in physical feats, but in the intricate melodies and harmonies he wove. These aren't just isolated incidents. They are echoes of a universal human struggle, the desire for belonging, for acceptance, for love. But somewhere along the way, many of us confuse that desire with the need for external validation. We start to believe that our worth is contingent on what others think, what others say, what others expect. And that's where the insidious trap lies. Because when you hand over the reins of your self-worth to someone else, you give them the power to make you feel inadequate, to make you feel less than. The beauty of breaking free from this cycle is that it liberates not just you, but often those around you as well. When I stopped trying to be Evelyn, my relationship with Evelyn ironically improved. The unspoken competition dissipated. We could finally see each other as individuals, not as rivals for our father's affection. We could celebrate each other's successes without the bitter taste of comparison. My father, in his own way, also began to shift. Perhaps seeing my contentedness, my quiet confidence, even in the absence of the success he had envisioned, allowed him to reevaluate his own rigid definitions. His "you've made quite a life for yourself" was a testament to that. It wasn't a complete transformation, but it was a seed of understanding, planted in fertile ground. So, how do you begin this journey of reclaiming your narrative? It starts with introspection, with a deep dive into your own desires, your own passions, your own unique strengths. Ask yourself, what truly brings me joy? What activities make me lose track of time? What would I pursue if societal expectations, family pressures, and financial constraints were completely removed? These are not easy questions, and the answers may not be immediately apparent. It requires quiet contemplation, perhaps journaling, or even seeking guidance from a therapist or a coach who can help you untangle the threads of your own conditioning. Once you start to uncover these authentic desires, the next step is to begin taking small, deliberate actions that align with them. It doesn't have to be a grand, revolutionary leap. It can be as simple as dedicating an hour a week to a neglected hobby, signing up for a class that genuinely interests you, or saying no to a social engagement that you dread. Each small act of self-affirmation is a brick laid in the foundation of your authentic self. Each choice, however minor, that prioritizes your own well-being and desires over external expectations strengthens your internal compass. And be prepared for resistance, not just from others, but from yourself. The ingrained patterns of a lifetime are not easily broken. There will be moments of doubt, moments when the old voices of inadequacy creep back in. This is where resilience comes in. This is where self-compassion becomes your most powerful tool. Treat yourself with the same kindness and understanding you would offer a dear friend. Acknowledge the struggle, but don't let it derail you. Remind yourself of your inherent worth, independent of any external validation. One of the most powerful exercises I undertook was to create my own definition of success. For years, my definition had been a patchwork quilt of my father's ambitions, society's benchmarks, and Evelyn's achievements. It was a definition that never quite fit, always leaving me feeling a little out of sync. So, I sat down and wrote my own. It wasn't about financial wealth, although financial stability is important. It wasn't about accolades or titles. My definition of success became to live a life of purpose, to contribute positively to my community, to foster meaningful relationships, and to cultivate inner peace. This became my North Star, my internal compass. Every decision, every opportunity, every challenge, I now filter through this lens. Does it align with my definition of success? If not, then it's not for me, regardless of how much external approval it might garner. This redefinition of success is crucial because it shifts the locus of control from external forces to your internal values. It empowers you to be the arbiter of your own worth, the architect of your own life. When you know what success means to you, the opinions of others lose their power. They become mere background noise, not the definitive soundtrack of your existence. And it's not just about grand, life-altering decisions. This principle applies to the mundane, everyday choices as well. Do you choose the trendy restaurant because it looks good on Instagram, or the cozy, authentic one that genuinely appeals to your taste buds? Do you buy the expensive brand because it projects a certain image, or the quality item that truly meets your needs? These seemingly small choices, when consistently aligned with your authentic self, accumulate over time to create a life that is truly yours. The beauty of this journey is that it breeds authenticity. When you stop performing for others, you start to reveal your true self. And the people who are meant to be in your life, the ones who truly resonate with your authentic self, will be drawn to you. The relationships you build will be deeper, more meaningful, and more fulfilling. Because they won't be based on a carefully constructed facade, but on genuine connection. This isn't to say that external feedback is entirely useless. Constructive criticism, genuine praise, and loving support from those who truly know and care about you can be valuable. The key is to differentiate between feedback that helps you grow and feedback that seeks to mold you into someone you're not. It's about discerning the signal from the noise and trusting your own internal wisdom to guide you. The world is constantly trying to tell you who you should be, what you should want, how you should live. From advertisements to social media, from family expectations to cultural norms, there's a relentless barrage of messages designed to shape your identity. But you have the power to resist. You have the power to curate your own influences, to choose what you internalize and what you discard. You have the power to write your own story, to define your own hero's journey. My journey is far from over. There are still moments when the old insecurities resurface, moments when I catch myself seeking external validation. But now, I recognize them, I acknowledge them, and then I gently redirect myself back to my own path. It's a continuous process of self-awareness and self-correction, and that in itself is a form of freedom. The freedom to be imperfect, to be human, to be authentically myself, flaws and all. So, if you're out there, feeling the weight of those chains, feeling the pressure to conform, to compete, to be someone you're not, know this. You are not alone. There is a path to liberation. It may not be easy, but it is profoundly rewarding. The view from your own path, the one you forge with your own hands, with your own heart, is truly breathtaking. It's a view of genuine joy, of deep satisfaction, of unwavering self-worth. It's the view of a life lived on your own terms. The camera pulls back slightly, showing Amelia in a more reflective pose, her gaze thoughtful. Amelia VO, this isn't a call to isolation or to disregard the opinions of everyone around you. It's a call to discernment, to listen to your own inner voice, the one that often gets drowned out by the clamor of external expectations. It's about building a strong internal foundation so that when the winds of external opinion blow, you remain unshakable. It's about understanding that the only person you truly need to impress, the only person whose approval truly matters when all is said and done, is yourself. She pauses, a sense of quiet authority in her voice. Amelia VO, so if you're ready to step off the treadmill, to reclaim your narrative, to rewrite your own ending, then I invite you to join this conversation. Share your experiences, your struggles, your triumphs. Let's create a space where authenticity is celebrated, where comparison is banished, and where every unique path is honored. Because when we stop competing and start living, we unlock a power within ourselves that is capable of transforming not just our own lives, but the world around us. This is just the beginning, and I truly believe the best is yet to come. Amelia looks directly into the camera, a warm, inviting smile on her face. Amelia, are you ready to write your own ending? The screen fades to black, the Unspoken Stories logo appears, followed by a call to action. Share your story. Subscribe. Join the community. The gentle, hopeful background music swells and then fades out. Ixt. Cozy coffee shop. Day rain streaks down the window of a bustling, yet intimate coffee shop. Amelia 30s, articulate, warm sips from a mug, a thoughtful expression on her face. Across from her sits Chloe 30s, vibrant, a hint of weariness in her eyes, clutching a well-worn notebook. Chloe, you know, Amelia, what you said about rewriting your own ending. It really resonated. I've been feeling so stuck, like I'm reading a script someone else wrote for me. Amelia smiles gently. Amelia, that's a feeling many of us know all too well, Chloe. We're often handed these narratives, the perfect career, the ideal relationship, the right way to live. And we spend years trying to fit ourselves into them, even when they chafe. Chloe nods, flipping open her notebook. Chloe, exactly. My whole life, it's been about ticking boxes, good grades, prestigious university, corporate job. And for a while, I convinced myself I was happy. But then, the novelty wore off. The promotions felt hollow. The applause felt distant. Amelia, because it wasn't your applause you were chasing, was it? It was the echo of someone else's expectations. Chloe, yes. My parents, my teachers, even my friends. Everyone had an opinion on what success looked like for me, and I absorbed it, internalized it, until I couldn't tell where their voice ended and mine began. Amelia leans forward, her voice soft but firm. Amelia, that's the insidious nature of external validation, isn't it? It's like a drug. You get a hit, you feel good for a moment, but then the craving returns, stronger than before. You're constantly chasing the next fix, the next approval, never truly satisfied because the source of your worth is outside yourself. Chloe closes her notebook, resting her chin on it. Chloe, so, how do you detox? How do you unlearn all of that? Amelia, it's a process, not an event. It starts with awareness, recognizing those moments when you're making a decision not because it feels right to you, but because you're envisioning someone else's reaction. It's about pausing and asking yourself, whose narrative am I serving right now? Chloe ponders this, a thoughtful frown on her face. Chloe, I think I do that all the time. Like, even with my social media, I'm always curating this perfect image, thinking about what people will think, how many likes I'll get. It's exhausting. Amelia, and what happens when you don't get the likes? When the comments aren't what you hoped for? Chloe, I feel deflated, like I failed. Which is ridiculous, I know. It's just an app, but it feels so real. Amelia, because we've allowed these external metrics to dictate our internal state. We've outsourced our self-worth. Imagine if you posted something, anything, purely because you loved it, because it brought you joy, and then you simply moved on without checking for validation. Chloe's eyes widen slightly. Chloe, that feels terrifying and liberating. Amelia, it is both. The path to authentic self-worth is often paved with discomfort. Because you're dismantling years of conditioning, you're telling that internal critic, the one that mimics all those external voices, that its reign is over. Chloe takes a deep breath. Chloe, so, how do I start? Practically. Amelia, start small. Identify one area where you feel the most pressure to conform. Is it your career, your appearance, your hobbies? And then, intentionally, choose one small action that goes against that external expectation and aligns with your own desire. Chloe reaches for her notebook again, pen in hand. Chloe, okay. My career. I'm a corporate lawyer. And honestly, I hate it. I dream of being a ceramic artist. But everyone says that's not a real job. It's a hobby. Amelia, and what does your inner voice say? Chloe, it sings. It feels like coming home. Amelia, then your small action could be anything from enrolling in a pottery class, to dedicating an hour a day to research, to simply acknowledging to yourself, without judgment, that this is a genuine desire. The key is to take a step, however tiny, that validates your own longing, rather than seeking external validation for it. Chloe writes furiously. Chloe, okay. Pottery class. I'm going to sign up today. But what if it's not good enough? What if I'm terrible? Amelia, then you learn. Or you discover it's not for you. But you'll have done it for yourself. And that, Chloe, is the point. The outcome is secondary to the act of honoring your own truth. We often get so caught up in the what-ifs and the fear of failure that we never even begin. We let the potential judgment of others paralyze us. Chloe nods, a newfound determination in her eyes. Chloe, it's like I've been living in someone else's movie, and I've been so focused on getting good reviews from the critics, I forgot I was the star, and the director, and the writer. Amelia, precisely. You have the power to rewrite the script, to change the genre, the plot, the ending, and the most beautiful part. Your story is unique. It doesn't need to be like anyone else's to be magnificent. In fact, its magnificence lies in its authenticity. A waiter brings Amelia a refill. She gestures to Chloe's notebook. Amelia, what else are you writing there? Chloe, I'm brainstorming my unspoken stories, the things I've always wanted to do, but felt too silly, or too self-conscious, or too afraid to pursue. Like, I've always wanted to learn to play the ukulele, and travel solo to Japan, and dye my hair bright pink, just once. Amelia, those aren't silly, Chloe. Those are pieces of you waiting to be expressed. Imagine the joy, the growth, the sheer liberation of finally giving voice to those unspoken stories. Chloe, but what about the people who won't understand? My boss, my parents. Amelia, some won't. And that's okay. Their inability to understand your path is a reflection of their perspective, not a judgment on your worth. The people who truly matter, the ones who genuinely care about you, will celebrate your joy, even if they don't fully grasp your choices. And the ones who don't, well, their opinions become less and less significant as your internal foundation strengthens. Amelia takes a sip of her coffee, her gaze thoughtful. Amelia, VO, this isn't about abandoning your responsibilities or becoming reckless. It's about aligning your actions with your values, your desires, your authentic self. It's about understanding that true freedom doesn't come from having limitless options, but from having the courage to choose the options that resonate most deeply with your soul, regardless of external validation. Chloe looks up, a genuine smile spreading across her face, the weariness in her eyes visibly lessened. Chloe, you know, I've spent so much time comparing myself to others. My friend who got partner at 30, my cousin who has the perfect family. I always felt like I was falling short. Amelia, comparison is the thief of joy, Chloe. It's a constant battle you can never win because you're comparing your messy, nuanced, internal reality to someone else's carefully curated highlight reel. Their journey is theirs, yours is yours, and both are valid. Both are important, Chloe, so instead of looking at what everyone else has, I should focus on what I want. Amelia, exactly. And what you want, what brings you joy, what lights you up, that is your compass. It's your internal GPS, guiding you not to a destination dictated by others, but to the life that is uniquely yours to live. Chloe closes her notebook again, but this time, it feels different. Not a sign of defeat, but of completion, of a new beginning. Chloe, I feel lighter, like a weight has been lifted. Amelia, that's the feeling of reclaiming your narrative, of stepping into your power. It's not about being selfish. It's about self-respect. It's about understanding that you are worthy of a life that feels authentic to you. Amelia gestures around the bustling coffee shop. Amelia, Vio, every single person in this room, every single person out there has an unspoken story, a dream deferred, a passion suppressed, a truth unacknowledged. Imagine a world where we all had the courage to tell those stories, to live those truths. A world where authenticity wasn't just tolerated, but celebrated. Where instead of competing for limited external validation, we collaborated in the rich tapestry of human experience, each thread unique, each thread essential. Chloe looks out the window at the rain, a thoughtful, hopeful expression on her face. Chloe, a world where every ending is truly our own. Amelia smiles, a knowing glint in her eyes. Amelia, and the most exciting part, you get to write it, starting now. Chloe nods, a determined glint in her own eyes. She pulls out her phone, navigates to a pottery studio website, and begins to fill out a registration form. Fade out, ending.